This is Lansdowne Roar, the voice of the fans. Coming up, Dunphy lashes Southgate. The legendary pundit says that the England manager is making the same mistakes as his predecessors. Plus, we talk about the Irish on the move over in England, and Seamus Coleman goes back to where it all began, at the showgrounds. This is Lansdowne Roar. David Dunn here, joined by Martin Prendergast. And as always, if you like what you see, you love what you hear, please scan that QR code. Head over to our Facebook, Instagram, and our Twitter. Plus, if you want opinion, head over to lansdowneroar.ie. That is lansdowneroar.ie. And if you could give the old YouTube channel a cheeky subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. And as always, because we are Irish football's most interactive podcast, get involved. Have a say in the comments if you want to rant, or like we had a guy a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, shouting about clouds and ranting at clouds. You can do that as well, because that's what we're here for, Martin, isn't it? We're therapy.
Yeah, we love to hear from the fans. Yeah, it is a little bit like a therapy session for us at times when we're lambasting the the FAI and with the frustration of the fans. I think we feel it as we are going to matches and looking forward to games coming up as well. Very much on the side of the fans, even with the recent announcement of the Nations League package, which didn't go down well at all. I think that has actually, it's not a bad part to start with, Dave. I've had a few people kind of come back to me going, oh, well, it looks like I'm not going to England then, because they just, it's where we are as a society, I suppose. People just can't afford to commit to 3 games, which I can understand. It is a big thing to do. And big commitment, of course. But yeah, I don't think it was the greatest decision ever.
No, I mean, like, overall value, it's reasonably priced. When you factor in all 3 games and the individual prices, etc., it's decent value. But as you say, it doesn't matter. It could be the most valuable 3-match ticket in the world. People out there just can't afford it. And what can you do? But the FEI really need to rethink this, because whoever is their marketing guy, was that David Carell at one stage?
No, he wasn't. No.
Okay. Right, Martin, let's get into it. Eamon Dunphy's on the Warpath again. Here he is in his Daily Mirror article, not his Daily Star article. He says that Gareth Southgate is repeating the same mistake of previous England managers. Let's have a look at what he said there. I've broken it up into chunks, Martin. I want to get your opinion on this. A big problem is the team is set up to accommodate Kane, who looks extremely tired. Does Gareth Southgate have the courage to drop his captain? What do you think? Southgate continues to show that he is a consistent manager, consistent at making baffling decisions. For most of the England players, though, they were way off what was needed. They were playing as if terrified of making a mistake. They were completely unrecognisable from the players we see week in and week out for the clubs. Players tend to bite their tongues during their careers, only opening up in interviews and in autobiographies after they hang up their boots. And over the decades, it's striking how many ex-England players have ended up admitting that they didn't enjoy playing for the national team. You have to ask, why is that the case? Is it due to the media in England, which has often been toxic in the way it covers the team? I do think the football's coming home nonsense has never helped the players. Lots to unpack there, Martin. What do you make there, Dunphy? We kind of had a go at James McLean the other day, didn't we? I did. About being a little bit rudimentary about his criticism of the English media. Seems a bit dated.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just got to think the scrutiny and pressure the England players are is probably the highest, I think, of any nation. I think maybe we think that because we live in London, Dave, so we see it in every, Sky Sports News is basically the England channel, basically during tournaments and stuff. But
you glued to Martin, yeah.
There's just a lot of scrutiny and stuff, and the players obviously have seen Bellingham. After we got the goal the other night, he said how it's brilliant, huge honour playing for England, but the pressure is immense, and you've got to remember that millions of people watching around the world, and we saw that with Ronaldo as well. Like, these are professional athletes, elite athletes, top of the game, some of the greatest ever to play the game in Ronaldo, certainly, and but you can buckle under pressure, and a lot of admiration for Ronaldo. He came back and had the balls to stand up and take that penalty, but you can just see the emotions. They're on a proper tender hooks there with that. It's a balance. But with England, I think there is like this. They get hyped up so much, these players, that the press. If Harry Kane was on a scoring run and firing goals in, they're not putting pressure on the manager to drop him. So the scrutiny of the squad and their performances of players, even Foden, if they have one bad game, the press are out to Southgate. Why are you playing him? Why are you playing him? And that seems to be the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah, they haven't had one bad
just
game though.
certain. Yeah, I know that, but
They've
I'm
had
just
4
saying,
bad games.
but if you look at it, it's still through. That's their argument. You can go through and find a way to win. I know Roy said that the other night, but like with Kane, he's always going to play for England. Now, whether he's not going to drop him because it's too much of a story not to do so. And he knows as well and trusts that Kane will get one chance in the box and invariably he will normally score that chance, right? So he's not going to do that. He doesn't need to go with Tony and make that a big story and not back his striker. So I can't see the thing with Kane. What I would say is the criticism of Southgate, I think that is right and justified, is I didn't understand his decisions to experiment with Trent early on in the games. You do that before the tournament. Kane had so few touches. You're either getting him involved in the game and you play off him because he's so good how you want to. You don't change the whole structure to not have him involved in his normal game. Like then you do say, right, Harry, we don't want you doing that. But like he had 1 or 2 touches, didn't he? It's ridiculous. You've got to then you say, right, we're going to do something different. Like we're going to put Tony and he's up front and or I don't know how they would do it, but I can't see him obviously dropping Kane, but I don't really get that Dunphy's argument about the pressure of football's coming home, because we do the same with Irish football players.
Yeah, I think
they are under pressure. The Irish players, Dave, when they finish up, they say, I didn't really enjoy it. And we've heard now snippets now that I didn't enjoy playing under Kenny in a sense because Doherty did it famously, didn't rate ONeill and things. So you got to do what the manager asks you to do.
What I would say though, I think what the issue I have with Dunphy's analysis there is, I think that's just a lazy argument. Oh, the football's coming home. That's just a lazy kind of man on the street opinion or person on the street opinion in Dublin and Ireland. They're very arrogant, without actually looking at the papers, without actually kind of paying attention to English media, because I'm sick of hearing this, and I can't believe it's an actual argument. It's coming home. Oh yeah, no, so arrogant. It's the name of a song from the Lightning Seeds for Euro '96, which was re-released for France '98. It was a catchy song. It's a good song. Like, it's an okay song. Do you know what I mean? As football songs go, it's no put them under pressure. But even then, we put them under pressure. It's, Ireland are the greatest football team. It's a song, and I think because there's that bias there in the Irish psyche that they just want to put the boot into England. Look at you arrogant bunch of so and so's. I think it's just kind of that this learned behavior. People just can't get it out of their heads. We live in London, and from what I've been hearing as well, one comment I did hear from a friend, and I got a bit of a welly in the WhatsApp group because I mentioned a comment. So I'm going to do it again. But basically, this whole thing, they'd be unbearable. Now I'm listening to the media, and they're going, and you're reading the articles, going, nah, listen, we got away with that. Slovakia airport and the airport. I think some very fair comments have been made. Look, Gareth Southgate has galvanized this squad. He took over a complete mess after Hodgson, and then it was obviously he was on a dice for one game, and then he kind of galvanized the squad. He made the friends. He made friends with the media, the players in the media, and all of a sudden now they're coming in for a little bit of welly. I mean, you and I, Martin, we can remember. I don't quite remember Bobby Robson, what he got, but he was called. But I know he was called. At the time was like 6, but looking back on it, he was called a traitor because the English FA decided not to renew his contract. But he was a traitor because it leaked before the World Cup. Graham Taylor had the turnip on his head. What was it? Swedes 2, turnips 1 after they went out of Euro '92. Some of the absolute abuse that these guys got, like gutter press, and it was gutter press, and we should never go back to those days. I think these guys, you touched on it on a couple of podcasts ago, that they're very soft. These players now, like they're not, they're not made of the same stuff as the guys in the '90s, because the stuff they had to deal with. And as horrible as that stuff was, I never want to see it again. But I just think that I don't think the press have been that bad. I don't think they have been that pressurized. They should be one of the favourites with the squad they have. They should be one of the favourites to win to win this tournament. That's not arrogance. That's just look at them. Look at the team that they have, but they
Yeah.
are misfiring. They're underperforming.
They are, but I think they've found a way to win, and it's knockout football now. And you see the closest to these games. I mean,
That'll only get you so
I
far,
know.
though, Martin.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily, Dave, because Greece struggled through in 1-1.
Fair point.
And Portugal, I think, got through it when they won it. They didn't win a game in their group. I don't think. I think that I might be standing corrected.
We got to the quarters in 1990 without winning the game.
Yeah, but you can tournament football's different, and you can go right to the last minute. And I mean, I was criticizing some of the posts we put on Facebook on the group, like saying what an amazing game and what an amazing end. And it was more the drama of these games is good. The football might not be brilliant, but it is exciting sometimes to watch. And a team of 2-1 down, the keeper's coming up. I can't remember really watching many tournaments when that's happened. It's desperation stakes. I mean, the Austria-Turkey game last night, literally 20 seconds before the end, keeper makes a fantastic save. And the penalty shootout, the drama of Ronaldo. It's not been a great tournament, but it's fascinating to watch it, and it just hurts that we're not there, I suppose. But I do think though England can crawl through it. And to be honest with you, they can turn it on, and they could. All right, Switzerland a very good side, and they've had a good tournament to date, but so did Austria. And I mean, I looked at some amazing thing. I think Austria and Turkey played a friendly in a few months ago, and Turkey lost 6-1. So
Wow.
they turned it around 2-1. I know it's a friendly, and we don't really know what the context of it all was, but you can get performances, and England could go out, and I think they will do this. I think they will go out, and they'll just get a very good, solid, professional performance, and they will just control the game, and they'll win it.
If
they will get through, and then it's in semi-final stage. You don't know.
If they start showing signs of life now, if they roar into life, pun not intended, but the three lions roar into life against Switzerland, then all of that, all those turgid performances up to this point mean nothing. It's like you're here now. Italy've done it. They've got to the finals of tournaments. They've won tournaments by stumbling through. It can happen. It can happen. I did see this online. I'm going to just show you here. From the Swiss lad. Don't worry, England hate Watch Nation. We'll send them home next week in a picture of the lads. Looks like Gelsenkirchen, actually. You remember the thing in Euro 88 where we got knocked out to the Dutch, the escalators coming down. Yeah. For those of you listening in on the podcast there. Anyway, we're going to move on to the next section. What Dunphy had to say. There are real expectations placed on the players' shoulders when you pull on the shirt. But does anyone think that pressure isn't put on the players from Italy or Spain or Germany or France? We've heard stories over the years of England players obsessing over ratings they'll get out of 10 in newspapers. But have a look at L'Equipe in France. They regularly savage players in ratings, sometimes handing out 1s and 2s. Sure, even poor Vera Pauw got a 2, didn't she? Or got a 1. She wasn't even a bloody manager. That's harsh. A while ago. Bild in Germany and Marca in Spain can be as tough on the players as any English newspaper. To me, what sets England apart is how many managers make the same mistake again and again. England bosses have picked the best 11 available instead of picking the best team. That is true. I mean, you remember poor Paul Scholes put out onto the left to facilitate Gerrard and Lampard by Sven. He is right though what he's saying there. L'Equipe are notoriously but I think though, to be honest, what I would say though with L'Equipe is that it's more pantomime now. Like, I think if you're a French player, you know what L'Equipe are like. You score a hat trick and you go, well, you didn't score 4, so that's a 5. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think with them it's probably a bit of pantomime. Build, don't read Build or Marca, but I mean, that's funny as well. And I think we do that in Ireland a lot, where we kind of slag off the English because we see English media all the time in Ireland. We got BBC, we got ITV or UTV, but but because we don't have access to German media, like you'd imagine the Germans, like I remember when the Germans hammered a very poor German side, hammered Saudi Arabia. What was it, 8-0 in the World Cup in 2002? The headline was, "We're back."
Yeah.
And they, speaking of being poor, they stumbled their way to the final in 2002. And then, what you thought would happen happened. You got well beaten by, if it wasn't for the brilliance of Oliver Kahn, it probably would have been hammered by Brazil in that final. But we don't slag off the French or the German press because we don't read it.
Yeah, but you do get an impression of it though. Like for example, I've seen the Kevin De Bruyne clip where he's interviewed after the game in the mix zone, and he calls the press stupid as he goes out because they criticise Belgium's golden generation and how have they failed, and he said, what about France and Spain and England? Someone made a good point though. All of those teams have got to finals ultimately in the last 10 years. So Belgium, I think, have they were number one and rated in the world. Now we know the rankings mean nothing, but still, they were at one stage. So I think he's obviously he's disappointed and stuff, but yeah, I can understand. But so again, they're being called out for things as well. I mean, look, it's high level football, professional sport, lots of pressure. Decisions can flip it as well each way. I mean, I go back to that Denmark game where the guy has gone from the highest high thinking he's scored, and then that's been disallowed, he's offside, and then he's responsible for giving away a penalty within the next minute. The highs and lows of sport. It's fascinating to watch. But and that's just it. But yeah, I think a lot of these footballers live in this bubble. Another interesting point for what we do as a podcast and even social media content and things is you see this big kind of sway on social media, people arguing the case for like, oh, don't ever go at Bellingham, he just saved us, blah 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 blah. And someone just went, social media is just a place to rant now, isn't it? Everyone's fighting battles for people who don't give a shit about them. To be honest, Bellingham don't care. They don't need you to fight their battles. They'll make the comments when they want, and they want support of the fans then. But otherwise, they're in their own little bubble, in their own little world. And
speaking of Jude Bellingham, I'm starting to see signs of him now, that I don't really like. I do think he is starting to show signs that it's going to his head a little bit. This whole thing of, remember we talked about celebration, which he might get in trouble over, yet still haven't heard any outcomes of that, whether he's banned or not for the game against Switzerland, or what, or we might get a slap in the wrist. But I'm starting to see kind of traits there that I don't really like. Apparently he doesn't really talk, listen to a few other programs before today, and apparently he doesn't really like talking to the press. There's a bit of an arrogance about him because he plays for Real Madrid, and he's only 22, but even a celebration like against Slovakia, against Slovenia, and Slovakia, and you're thinking, mate, be humble, because you have absolutely, like, this has been dreadful, and you've got your team out of jail with a bit of brilliance, undoubted brilliance. The lad has got so much potential. I think he's a quality player. Sorry, Connor, if you're watching, but show a bit of humility here, because the fans have every right to voice their frustration because it hasn't been good and they have stumbled their way. Just going to read on the next bit here from Dunphy. You'll get a kick out of this. He also went, Southgate, with what nerds now call a double pivot of Rice and Trent Alexander-Arnold, easy for me to say. AA can deliver superb passes, but he isn't even the second cousin of a midfielder. It was a doomed experiment. England are in the quarterfinals of the Euros, and he may well make the final because of a lopsided draw. But it's hard to imagine them ending up with a trophy. What everyone in that camp has is the shared experience of the strange world England footballers and their coaching staff inhabit. Their last friendly before the Euros was a defeat to Iceland. Southgate and his players were booed off the field. The draw in their last group game against Slovenia ensured England came top. The reward was to again be booed off by their own fans. Kane talked last week about how the criticism was getting to the players. He didn't even have to tell us that. You could tell from the fearful way that England played that they're riddled with insecurities. The bottom line, though, is that one essential truth in football will never change. The team matters most. You can't just pick 11 individuals and hope they somehow gel. England got away with it against Slovakia, but they can't ride on luck indefinitely. I wouldn't be surprised if Switzerland send them packing. And that's all he's had to say there. Pretty much, what we've kind of said there. They could find a way to the final. And listen, when you get to the final, you can still do it. I do think it will only carry them so far because of the toxicity around the team, and there seems to be a clear unhappiness there around the side. I do think if they were to go up against a Spain team, they would get a hiding. They get probably like a 3-4-0 battering on the current display. Now, if they roar into life, as I said before, against Switzerland, who knows?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I mean, I they're still favourites with the bookies to win it, and
Yeah.
you know that's it's. But that market there might be false. Obviously, we're in England, and there will undoubtedly be passionate, fervent nationalist support for them, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they get on. But I mean, France World Cup finalists, you can't rule them out. Germany as a home nation, I think that's a really good quarterfinal coming up as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Spain, Portugal as well. I mean, it's so lucky England, they're just taking each other out of it. What did you make of Duffy's comment? Well, what nerds now call a double pivot of Rice and Alexander. I only found that out like a little while ago that's what he called two
midfielders. Yeah, double pivot.
Yeah. Jeez, it's all a bit mad. Well, there you have it. That's what Dunphy had to say anyway. And of course, we'll keep you up to date with any developments there. Moving on to the next topic, we're going to talk about the Irish on the move. National treasure, Keith Andrews, there he is. He's left Sheffield United for a coaching role at Brentford. Of course, he was the assistant manager under Stephen Kenny, and then he went to Sheffield United, who got relegated under Chris Wilder, actually. He joined the staff, but now has joined Brentford as a set-piece coach. This is what he had to say about his appointment, the powers that be at Brentford. Whilst he has had more wide-ranging coaching roles in the past, focusing on set pieces as a specialism is something which we think he has the qualities to do extremely well. And I'm sure that our staff can help him develop as a coach too. Set pieces are an important part of what we do well, and I'm sure we'll maintain those standards with Keith in charge. Now, of course, I like Keith. I'm not putting the boot in. I don't mean to put the boot into him. I'm being a tad facetious, Martin. Did you notice? But just reading on the comments there when you put this on the page the other day, just really negative comments towards our Keith.
That's going to happen though, because everyone is tarred with the Kenny brush, basically. And that's why John O'Shea's kind of got the same stuff, and that's just it, basically. You're tarred with that era, and but best of luck to him with it. I mean, this is a new thing. We talked about double pivot there a minute ago. This is a new thing, isn't it? Set piece coaches. You have a specialist who comes in and focuses on that, but you actually declare that. I mean, back in the day, it would be you'd have your 3 or 4 coaching staff, assistant manager included, and then they all had different roles, but you never got to know that. Liverpool famously have had a throwing coach, haven't they? And it's all to do with stats and analysis. And somewhat, I thought it was actually quite funny. It's quite fitting really, in a way. Keith Andrews has got this job at Brentford, and as I said, best of luck to him. I've got great admiration for lads who've gone and done their coaching badges, giving back to football. All right, he's being paid for it, we know that, but still being involved in it. I want to see Irish lads do well at coaching wherever they are, and it doesn't always work out in clubs and management.
Why do you need a set piece coach though? Like, I mean,
but that's just the thing. You get labelled as it, don't you?
No, but what I mean is like, you need to practice set pieces, by the way, like 100%. Like, if you're limited in your on-field ability, and you're one of the sort of mid to lower size like Brentford are, let's be honest, but they've done really, really well for a club of their size. So you need to maximize all of the opportunities there. Set pieces tend to be the one that you go for, defending set pieces and being dangerous from set pieces. But back in the day, the manager would do that. The coach would do that. The coach would have you well drilled with that. Is it just a case of like? And I'm not putting the boot into Keith Andrews whatsoever. Because as you say, fair play to him. He's gone out there back. He's giving back the football. He could just be sitting on the beach somewhere, couldn't he? But he's trying to get back to the game. But is this a case of like Premier League clubs just have money to burn? Because if they got relegated and they had to cut corners, that'd be one of the first things to go.
But yeah, no, I think it just sets out what these coaches do. Anthony Barry famously was our set piece coach. He's with Portugal now. It's only the other night,
and he was bloody good.
No, I know he was brilliant. But you think of and even now, even Arsenal famously, when you see them score a set piece, they all go and it works on the pitch. You see all the coaching staff go to, oh, well done, it came off, like justifying their job, basically. Well done.
The manager
I was going to do the Roy Keane thing there, but I'm not going to go there. But it was funny the other night, Portugal's game, going like Anthony Barry as the set piece coach with Portugal, and yet Ronaldo's just taking everything and lashing shots towards goals, in dangerous positions. He wasn't even crossing it. Anthony Barry must be just going, just throw my book away. But yeah, look, it's a part of football now, whether we like it or not, and it's at all levels as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important to kind of focus on it. But a designated person, I don't know. It puts a lot of pressure on that person in the job, doesn't it? Like, the stats might show all year now that Brentford don't score, and everyone will be going, hang on a second, they conceded 20 from set pieces, corners, and they've only got 1 goal from a corner. Because that
If
was
you're
famously used with United, wasn't it?
Was
Didn't
it?
score from a corner. Didn't score from a corner for ages. Like the worst record in the Premier League one season. And then they did score, and they were going, well, what do they do? Why don't they practice things?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
interesting.
I mean, but there's a lot. It's a bit like the touch map. But
that's it. Everything's aligned by stats now. People coming in, analysts, and they're the ones in the background funneling all this in.
I mean, Jill Scott on Stick to Football podcast said that to get a minute, they would go on your on how many miles you've run, and they'd keep the thing on. They'd be jogging to the toilet. They'd keep the the GPS thing on. So there's all these rudimentary ways of getting around this.
The funniest thing with that was Benny McCarthy. That's the best one I've ever heard on that. When he played for Blackburn, he was notoriously quite lazy. When they got a corner, he'd sprint to the corner to get the ball, and that would count as a stat of a sprints in the game.
Yeah.
So it showed it was his, but he wasn't doing it where they needed him to do it. But it was just that's how some players just operate.
And there's so many
way around it.
Yeah, it's like touching Jeff Hendrick. You probably say, "Oh, he had all these passes," but he's just doing 2-inch passes. Boom, boom. That's a pass. That's a pass. That's a pass. I mean, imagine if you're Keith Andrews or anybody like a set piece coach, you're making a note of every corner they take. It's like, well, he haven't scored from this. Yeah, but hold on a second. He couldn't even reach. What do you do if you're a set piece coach and you've a set piece taker and you can't even beat the first man on a corner? Because you see games like that, don't you? Be like, hold on a second, you couldn't even beat the first man. Or Ronaldo put his foot through it and blemming it into row Z. You'd be like, hold on, that's not the set piece coach's fault. Get some shooting lessons. Anyway, that's Keith Andrews, and we wish him absolutely well. Another Irishman moving on. John Egan, there he is. 6 years at Sheffield United has come to an end. Ironically, actually moved on from Brentford, didn't he? He came from Brentford to Sheffield United. And he moves on. He's the club captain. Basically, he leaves on a free. Rumor has it, Martin, he's on his way to Nottingham Forest. Is this a cost-cutting measure? Is it from Sheffield United, or because obviously they've gone down and they're in serious financial trouble?
It probably would be, but a lot of these clubs they look to rebuild. Then he's had a good innings there, when I say, and a bit of a club legend. I know a lot of Sheffield United fans were quite disappointed to see he announced it before the club did. So that wasn't very good on them, for someone who is perceived as a club legend. And I always think back to the year they got promotion, and he was on. It went viral, didn't it? Their celebrations and the sing song and stuff, all led by him. I like to see a bit of that Irish involvement in that, of course. But yeah, look, I hope his injuries are, he's recovering from them. I've seen some footage of him recently working hard to get back, and he's done a few little interviews about how the injuries really impacted him. But yeah, look, he's still got time in the game. Very experienced player, and was a key player for us. And ironically, Stephen Kenny used to really name drop him a lot as the player he wanted to see, the one coming out, and how they wanted to play. And I wouldn't say it's the end of him in an Ireland shirt, but no problem with him going to Forest if he can work alongside Omar Bamadeli and give him some input into it. And
imagine he'd be going to cover though.
Yeah, but still, you learn an awful lot off a good pro in training and stuff. That's it. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and anyone who ever played with Paul McGrath, or even at Derby County at Sheffield United and stuff, all say how fantastic he was. To bring, to actually help him, just absolute class. So
yeah, best luck to him. And of course, the other player on the move is Preston North End, another club captain. A lot of Irish players always end up as club captains, don't they? They announced it the other day. We can confirm that Alan Brown has informed the club he will not be accepting the offer of a 3-year extension to his existing contract. Member of a 400 club, Brownie leaves North End with everyone's best wishes. The 29-year-old has turned down probably his final big contract. He is 29. What do you make of that, Martin? I mean, they put together a record contract for him for any, the highest paid player ever, for Preston North End. He's turned it down. I mean, Do we know why? Do we know where he's going?
No, I've not read anything where he's going, but like it's I didn't realize it was a 3-year contract he was offered. I mean, that's huge, but again, it's just perhaps change of scenario. Maybe his vision of where he sees the club going doesn't align with him. I know that sounds a bit ridiculous as a player and stuff, but he's given a lot of time to them. You don't even know. Is it? I think he was there 10 years, wasn't he? But perhaps the contract didn't include a testimony or whatever it is. Some players still want that. Not saying he's asked for that at all, but you just don't know what the kind of deal was. And it was a record breaking over 3 years. He's probably looking. He might not have been playing as much towards the end. He's probably looking for a change of scenery. I would be anyway. I think if they've been close and hit the crossbar a few times, haven't they, to getting up and stuff. But I think he's done well there, given some good loyal service. He's probably going to try and push himself to get a bigger club or a team that can possibly get into the Prem, because I think that's what he's looking to do. He wants to be able to say, I played in the Premier League. It's important to a lot of players that,
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I mean, most famous, probably the most popular league in the world. Totally. Well, look, we wish him the absolute best, and hopefully he gets what he wants. And finally, Mark, before we end this wonderful podcast, this lovely experience as always is with yourself, we're going to talk a little bit about Seamus Coleman, who was announced here by it was brought to our attention by our friends over at Republic of Ireland Player Tracker. Give those guys a follow over there on Twitter, Connor. He's doing God's work. If you want to know what's going on basically in the wide net that is Irish football and granny rulers and that kind of thing, he is the boy for that. But yeah, here he is. Some brilliant news that has just been confirmed that Seamus Coleman will return to the showgrounds on the 19th of July as Everton face Sligo Rovers in a pre-season friendly. Going to be a great day for Sligo as they look to collect more funds for the redevelopment. Of course, Sligo suffering the tragic loss there of Tommy Gorman, who had an Irish broadcasting legend who had a lot to do with them trying to secure finance for their new stadium. So this will do them power of good. Martin Seamus Coleman, he of course left, didn't he? He left 15 years ago to go for Everton. What was it, 60k was it for Everton? Yeah. He signed for. Fantastic bit of business, but he's going there to give something back to the club that launched his career.
Yes, I think it's a nice thing for Seamus to go back and do that with Everton, of course. And he's extended his contract to Everton. So again, a player that you have to admire as our captain leader. Very popular at Everton, of course. Expect this season. Let's be honest, he is aging. It's coming to the end now for him, but he's kept himself in incredible condition. Can't play as often as he obviously wants to, but I love the fact he comes back from injuries and does look after himself. He's an inspiration to anyone, really. So I love the fact he's going back there. I think it's quite nice. Everton have honoured him as well with that Irish kind of shirt, didn't they? That they brought out last season, which is going to be a collector's item, I'm sure, in future. But I love it. I think it's a quite bit of kind of closure on things in a sense that it's not just at the end of his career and he's packed in and then thinking I'm going there. I think it's quite a nice thing to kind of do. So
the circle of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming back together. Now we wish him all the best there. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. Martin, thank you very much as always. And thank you very much at home for watching and or listening. As always, if you scan that QR code, hit that subscribe button and head over to our Twitter, Facebook, and our Instagram. And obviously the website, lansdowneroar.ie. That is lansdowneroar.ie. It really does help. It really does help. If you like what you see, love what you hear, spread the word, please. Please tell people that we are trying to do God's work over here. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. I am David Dunn. He is Martin Prendergast. We will see you hopefully on the Friday. All the best.